Welcome back to Elderly Guidance, and welcome to the Deep Dive.
Good to be back.
Today, we're getting into something really important, maybe often overlooked as we get older. It's about, well, silent muscle loss.
Right. But we're looking at it from a specific angle based on some really interesting source material you found. It's about what's happening to muscles while we sleep.
Exactly. It's this piece that, it takes this idea of just getting weaker with age.
Which we often just accept, right?
We do.
Yeah.
But it frames it differently. It suggests it's often tied to missing specific nutritional things, and it really highlights this idea that it happens silently, mostly at night. We don't even notice it happening.
Mm-hmm. It's quite compelling.
Yeah. So the source we're diving into, it's science-backed, and it ranks these essential vitamins, pointing out what many seniors might be lacking.
Sure.
So our mission today is to really unpack all that, figure out which vitamins are flagged as key, why nighttime is supposedly so critical according to this source, and, well, how knowing this might help you keep your strength, your balance, and stay independent.
That independence piece is huge.
It really is.
Yeah.
And hey, if you find this deep dive useful, maybe hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep bringing you these kinds of explorations.
Definitely. So what jumps out right away from the source is the picture it paints. It says after age 60, strength can drop by as much as 3% per year.
Wow, 3% annually. That adds up really quickly. That's not just slowing down a bit.
No, it's significant. And the source argues, look, this isn't just the clock ticking. It's strongly connected to missing specific things your body needs, especially when it's meant to be repairing itself.
Which is mostly at night, according to this material.
Primarily, yes, during sleep.
And the consequences it describes, they're not trivial. It's not just feeling less strong. It talks about higher risk of falls.
Which can be devastating.
Absolutely. And easier fractures if you do fall. And just, losing that ability to manage things on your own, it impacts quality of life directly.
Totally. It's about function, not just muscle size. And to kind of hammer home how common this might be, this potential nutritional link, the source throws out a stat.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It says reportedly 93% of adults over 65 are missing at least one key vitamin needed for muscle protection, particularly overnight.
93%. Seriously, that's almost everyone in that age group. It makes it sound like a massive common issue, not some rare deficiency.
That's the implication, yeah, that it's widespread.
And it keeps coming back to nighttime. Why the focus on bedtime? Why is that window so critical for muscles, according to this source?
Well, that's a really good question. The source explains that nighttime is when your body shifts gears, basically. It goes into repair and rebuild mode. It mentions the parasympathetic nervous system taking over.
Your rest and digest system.
Kind of, yeah, but specifically for rebuilding here, it calls it an anabolic phase. So building up, not breaking down. And processes like protein synthesis, making new muscle tissue, are supposed to be running full steam.
Okay.
So if the body doesn't have the essential building blocks, the vitamins, the minerals, during that critical time, well, the repair job just can't get done properly. It gets hindered.
Okay. So it's like you said, the construction crew shows up for the night shift.
Yeah.
But the materials, the bricks and mortar, they just weren't delivered.
Yeah.
So they can't really build anything.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually. Yeah. So the source then lays out these 7 specific vitamins, it says, are especially vital for supporting that overnight muscle repair and fighting off the loss. It even ranks them.
Ranks them.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the specifics then. A countdown from 7 to 1. Where do we start? Number 7. What's the source highlighting there?
Number 7 is magnesium. The source calls it really central for muscles repairing overnight. It helps muscles relax, release tension.
Okay.
That's important. But maybe even more critically, it activates enzymes inside the muscles. These enzymes help the cells stay hydrated and use oxygen efficiently. Without enough magnesium, muscles can apparently stay tight, cramp up, and actually weaken overnight instead of repairing.
Interesting. And it mentioned a specific type of magnesium, right, for better absorption.
It did. Magnesium glycinate. That's the one it recommends because it's supposed to be absorbed well and get to the muscles effectively right when you need it for that nighttime repair.
Does it cite any evidence for that?
Yeah, it mentions a study from the University of Palermo. Seniors took 250 milligrams of magnesium glycinate each night, and reportedly they saw a 34% increase in their morning muscle function after 3 months.
34%?
Yeah.
Just from adding magnesium glycinate at night. That's quite a claim.
It is. And they also reported fewer cramps and sleeping better, which makes sense too.
Okay, and practical advice. How does it suggest taking it?
About 30 minutes before bed, just with a small glass of warm water. But interestingly, it says not with food. Yeah, and not even with things like almonds or spinach, which have calcium, or with a multivitamin. Seems the idea is to avoid competition for absorption.
Huh. That's very specific timing advice. Okay, good to know. Let's move on then. Number 6.
Number 6 is vitamin B12. The source describes this one as like powering the muscle's electrical system. It's crucial for nerve signals the messages telling muscles what to do.
Right.
And the challenge for older adults, it points out, is often lower stomach acid as we age. You need that acid to get B12 out of food.
Okay. And the source used some pretty strong language for B12 deficiency, didn't it? Called it a silent destroyer.
It did, leading to things people might just blame on getting older, like heavy legs, maybe poor balance. That feeling like you're walking through, what was it, wet cement?
Yeah, that's a vivid description.
It really paints a picture of subtle but significant decline. It cites a Tufts University study finding 39% of older folks with muscle weakness were actually B12 deficient.
Wow, nearly 40%.
Yeah. And another report mentioned apparently saw a 49% improvement in nerve muscle coordination over just 8 weeks when seniors supplemented with a high dose of methylcobalamin.
Methylcobalamin. Okay, that's the active form it recommends.
Exactly. That's the key. Take the active form methylcobalamin. And the suggestion is sublingual, dissolve it under the tongue,
Okay.
or use a liquid form. About 1,000 milligrams, maybe an hour before sleep, and no water needed for this one. The idea is to bypass the digestive system, especially absorption is an issue, and get it straight into the bloodstream for nerve repair during deep sleep.
Bypassing digestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense if stomach acid is the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5 on the list.
Number 5 is vitamin D3. Now, we usually think D is for bones, right?
Honestly, yeah.
But this source really pushes back on that limited view. It describes D3 more like a hormone that activates genes, specifically genes for muscle growth, for storing energy in muscles, and for resisting breakdown.
So it's like a genetic switch for muscle upkeep.
That's the idea. And it highlights its importance for fast-twitch muscle fibers, the ones you need for quick reactions, for balance.
So low D3 means those important muscle-building genes are just off. Is there evidence presented for that?
It mentions some, yes. A trial where seniors took 2,000 IU of D3 daily for 12 weeks, and their lower limb strength reportedly went up by 18%.
Okay, 18%. Not bad.
And another finding it cited suggested that older adults with the very lowest D3 levels were actually twice as likely to need mobility aids, like walkers or canes. So a direct link to impaired function.
That's a strong correlation. And how does this tie into the nighttime specifically?
Well, the source points out that D3 levels can naturally dip overnight, but protein synthesis, that muscle rebuilding, is happening then. So you need adequate D3 levels at night to make sure those growth and repair genes are switched on and working properly while you sleep.
Right. Needs to be available when the work is happening. And this is where the source had that interesting tip involving food, isn't it?
It is. This was quite specific. It strongly suggests taking D3 at night with healthy fats significantly boosts absorption.
How much boost?
It claims over 60% increased absorption. So taking it after dinner or right before bed with, say, a spoonful of nut butter or a piece of avocado. Simple pairing, big difference apparently.
Over 60%, just from adding a little fat. That's easy enough to try. Okay, fascinating. Let's get to number 4.
Number 4 is vitamin E. The source calls this one muscle armor.
Muscle armor, okay.
Its main job at night, according to this, is protecting muscle tissue from oxidative stress and inflammation. These things naturally happen when your body is doing deep repair work. Vitamin E acts like a shield for the muscle cell membranes, protecting them from damage by free radicals that could otherwise slow down recovery.
So it protects the muscles while they're being rebuilt overnight. Makes sense. And the source linked higher E levels to better physical performance, like grip strength.
Yes, it claims higher intake was linked to 27% better scores on things like grip strength and walking speed tests. And it mentioned a study where taking 400 IU of natural D-alpha tocopherol before bed significantly cut down on markers of muscle damage that would normally show up overnight.
Natural D-alpha tocopherol.
Yeah.
Okay, so the form matters here too, not the synthetic deal version.
Right, the natural D form. And the timing advice for E.
How did it suggest taking that one?
On an empty stomach. Ideally about an hour after your last meal, just before hitting the hay. The thinking seems to be that this is when the body is really shifting into recovery, oxidative stress might be peaking, so that's when vitamin E's protection is most needed.
Got it. Okay, we've covered hashtag 7 magnesium, hashtag 6B12, hashtag 5D3, and hashtag 4E, each playing a different role in that nighttime repair window, according to the source.
Yeah, it's building a picture.
It really is. Now, before we jump into the top three, which sound pretty crucial, and get some tips on making all this work, just a quick reminder. If you're finding this breakdown helpful, please do consider subscribing to the deep dive. It really helps us continue exploring topics like this for you.
Absolutely. Okay, ready for the top three.
Let's do it. Number three.
Number three on the sources list is vitamin B6. Maybe not one you immediately associate with muscle building like, say, protein itself.
Right.
But the source argues it's absolutely essential. It calls B6 the key that lets your body actually use the protein you eat to build muscle, especially at night.
So you could be eating enough protein, but without enough B6, it doesn't get turned into muscle tissue effectively.
That's the core argument. B6, especially its active form, is needed to kickstart amino acid metabolism inside the muscle cells. That's the process that converts amino acids from your food into the actual structure of muscle fibers.
Okay, there are data supporting that.
The source mentions a study showing older adults with higher B6 levels kept about 22% more lean muscle mass over a 3-year period.
22% more muscle mass retained. That's significant.
It is. And another finding indicated that B6 supplementation helped slow down muscle protein breakdown during sleep by up to 18%.
So it helps both build and prevent breakdown, particularly at night, during that anabolic rebuilding phase.
Exactly. And the preferred form mentioned here is P5P, that's pyridoxal 5-phosphate.
The active form again?
Yes, the active coenzyme form the body can use straight away. And the recommendation is to take it on its own, away from food, about 60 minutes before bed, ideally just with water. Food, it claims, can reduce absorption, especially as digestion slows with age.
Interesting. Another one, best taken solo before bed. Okay, number two. This one might surprise some people for muscle health. Vitamin C.
Yeah, we usually think C for colds or maybe skin health, right?
Totally.
But the source makes a strong case for it being vital for muscle structure and best taken before bed. And the reason comes down to collagen.
Collagen, like for skin and joints.
Yes, but collagen is also described here as the glue or the connective tissue that literally holds muscle fibers together. If you're low on C, the source claims, your muscle fibers become more fragile, recovery slows down, and you lose muscle density. It links C deficiency directly to sarcopenia, that age-related muscle loss.
Wow. Does it quantify that risk?
It does. It cites findings linking the highest vitamin C intake to a 67% lower risk of experiencing significant muscle mass loss. 67%.
That's huge.
And maybe even more strikingly, it mentioned that even mild C deficiency supposedly led to a 25% drop in collagen synthesis within muscle tissue in just 2 weeks.
Just 2 weeks for a 25% drop. Okay, so the nighttime relevance.
It ties back to that deep sleep repair window. The body is doing most of its structural rebuilding, including making collagen then. So getting vitamin C in before bed helps saturate the tissues, ensuring the raw materials are right there, ready for optimal repair.
Makes sense. And what about forms, or how to take it?
The source suggests buffered or liposomal forms of vitamin C. They're apparently gentler on the stomach, which can be good at night and might be better absorbed when digestion is slower during sleep.
Okay.
Recommendation is around 1 gram taken on an empty stomach, at least an hour after your last meal before bed. The idea is this timing helps kickstart those collagen and protein benefits while you're resting.
All right, we've reached the top. Number one. According to this source, the single most critical vitamin, especially at night, for stopping muscle loss is what?
Vitamin K2. The source really hypes this one up. It calls K2 potentially the single most important vitamin for seniors to take at night to fight muscle wasting.
Wow. Why so important? What's the mechanism?
It's all about calcium, apparently. K2 acts like a traffic cop for calcium in your body. Without enough K2, calcium can end up in the wrong places, like arteries or other soft tissues,
Instead of
being directed where you need it most.
Yeah.
Your bones, and importantly for this discussion, your muscles. K2 helps shuttle that calcium into the bone and muscle matrix.
So it helps strengthen the actual structure of the muscle by directing calcium properly.
Exactly, strengthening structure and function. The source cites studies showing K2 supplementation led to a 55% increase in mitochondrial efficiency in muscle cells.
Meaning better energy production within the muscle, less fatigue.
Precisely. And also a 37% improvement in leg muscle strength in older adults.
Those are impressive numbers.
Wait.
And what about deficiency? What happens if you don't have enough K2 according to this?
This was maybe the most dramatic finding mentioned. K2 deficiency reportedly doubled the rate of muscle breakdown occurring overnight.
Doubled overnight breakdown. Yikes.
Yeah. So the source emphasizes K2 isn't just about getting minerals absorbed, it's about directing them, telling calcium where to go to build and maintain strong structure.
That directional aspect is key. Okay, so for K2, the top vitamin on this list, preferred form, intake tips.
The best form highlighted is MK7. That's the long-acting version of K2, so it stays active in your system longer, supporting that mineral redistribution throughout the night.
Okay, MK7. And how to take it.
And this is crucial, just like with D3. K2 must be taken with fat for absorption. The recommendation is 1 capsule with a small spoonful of healthy fat, coconut oil, peanut butter, something like that right before bed, timed perfectly for when the body's doing that mineral shifting and muscle rebuilding.
So D3 and K2, the fat pairing before bed is non-negotiable according to this source.
Seems absolutely critical for them to work effectively, yes.
Okay. Wow, that's quite a list and some specific actions.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this deep dive, the source also had some quick, practical tips for making the most of this whole nighttime vitamin strategy, didn't it?
It did 5 quick takeaways to maximize the benefits.
Lay them on us.
Okay, 1. Pair those fat-soluble vitamins D3, K2, and E with healthy fat. It claims this can boost absorption by up to 70%.
70%, okay.
2. Space out big minerals like calcium, zinc, and magnesium. Take them at least an hour apart from each other because they can compete for absorption.
Good tip. Avoid traffic jams.
Exactly. 3. Choose the active or highly bioavailable forms when you can, the methyl B12, the MK7K2, magnesium glycinate, P5P, B6. The source really stresses these forms are more readily used by your muscles, especially at night.
Makes sense. Use the forms that work best.
4. Consistency is key. Make taking these vitamins a regular bedtime habit. That consistency supports the body's natural overnight repair rhythms.
Build the routine.
Yep. And 5. Stay hydrated. Drink enough water during the day and take your supplements with water, unless it's something like that sublingual B12 to help with transport and absorption.
That's a great practical summary. So we've really dug into this source material today, explored this idea that maybe significant muscle loss, often happening silently while we sleep, could be closely tied to missing specific vitamins.
Yeah, and we've walked through the 7 key ones highlighted by this source. Magnesium to kickstart repair, B12 for the nerve signals, D3 turning on growth genes, E as the protective armor, B6 for using protein to build muscle, C for the collagen structure, and finally K2, locking those minerals into place.
It's quite a synergistic picture. The source makes a compelling case, referencing clinical results, that these vitamins work together and are especially potent during that nighttime rebuilding phase.
It really shifts the focus, doesn't it? It's not just about what you do during the day, like exercise or diet, but also about giving your body the specific tools it needs for its overnight repair job.
Exactly. It's less about accepting decline and more about potentially supporting your body's own powerful recovery processes that happen every night.
A different way to think about maintaining strength as we age.
It is. And look, if you found this perspective on muscle health and the role of nighttime nutrients valuable, please do give this deep dive a like it helps others find it. And definitely subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss our future explorations.
Please do.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Just consider the potential cumulative effect. Over weeks, months, years. What could happen if you consistently ensured your body had these specific building blocks it needs every single night to repair and strengthen itself while you rest? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.